Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for wrestling with your questions. And have we got a show for you? We're coming to you live from Southern California, as always, because we can't get out of our houses. But we've got a cracking show for you. And before we get it all started, let me introduce my amazing co-host. He is the host of about 150 different shows, whether it's after buzz shows like the Raw after show or the NXT after show or the Picard after show or the What's Up Flobo show or guesting on Real Talker or guesting on all sorts of podcasts and things like that. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Heel Flobo Boyce.
Man, heel. I am actually a nice guy, and I can tell you this is my favorite show of the week because I don't have to say a billion things at once, like AfterBuzz TV Wrestling and Sports and introducing our all-star panel. I could just be this guy.
Yeah, but I don't know how. Go ahead.
Can I say this though? I'm in the virtual presence of my hero, my mentor, the guy that taught me everything there is to know about everything except for the birds and the bees, because I had a porn subscription.
Brown is here?
D'Lo Brown is in my Jack Farmer, man. Woo!
Oh man, thank you so much. It's always fun getting to work with you. It's always fun to get into these. That's why we do this extra, this little bonus, this little clip show for people to get a little bit more of us. Just because I like to chat with you. These are the conversations that you and I have off air, so to speak, typically. Yeah. And we just kind of put a camera on this time. This is the stuff we would talk about whether people were watching or not. So that's what quarantine brings us, is regular conversations. How you been doing, buddy? All good? You enjoying quarantine?
I'm good, man. I've kind of slowed up on the watching stuff on Netflix. I guess for some reason I'm almost used to the whole environment now that days are speeding by. And at the moment I'm like, oh, I'll just post this What's Up Flobo, or I'll just do this Twitter troll and start arguments about who's the best host at AfterBuzz. The day is over. So I haven't been doing.
Who would ever start a conversation like that? That's a dangerous topic.
I don't know. What the hell happened? But as far as like doing things, I mean, last weekend I spent 2.5 days prepping that Rocket League tournament. I'm going to talk about that maybe in a minute if you want to. But that was like the majority of my week. And then the next couple of days, me being so proud of my work, watching back the footage. So,
yeah, you had a busy week. Lots of stuff. We are going to talk about the Rocket League stuff. Absolutely. But I love what you said about the days start to slip by because, man, time seems to be going both very slow and very fast. I feel like after this call, after this chat, I've got another phone call, but then it's like the day's over. You know what I mean? Like it's weird how the days slip by. But as we were saying just before we got on air, what's nice about it is it does sort of kick you in the butt to get you doing things. And for instance, as I was saying before we got on the air, I'm cleaning up my YouTube page. I'm going to start putting videos up. I've had one video up for 2 years. It was a golden one.
Your DJ, right?
It was 10 tips for giving a good toast, and it holds up. It aged well. The only problem with it is it implies that there's people around you, and that doesn't fly in this day and age. But other than that, I think it's good. 10 tips on how to give a good toast. Me and our mutual good friend David Newton. It was from 2 years ago, and David Newton's still looking like Thor with a better accent, which is unfortunate that I have to stand next to him during that. But good times, yeah. If you want some advice on how to give a toast, visit my YouTube page. It's the only video there as of now. But hey, you know what? We know what brought us to the dance. We know what got us
here. Chat brought us to this dance. I got Evangelina's in there. She wants to hear more of fitness stories from me. But then at the same time, Demo is also in the chat, and she wants mine, and I can't do all that now. I don't know what's going on. And of course, one more from her. Celebrity in the show and tough times. That's why we do. Rosie, you could say.
Yeah, no, it's So so I want to give a shout out to the amazing sponsor, StreamYard, powered by StreamYard right here If you see a duck with headphones on, that's our guy, StreamYard, bringing shows like this. Guy, we're proud to be sponsored by them. Maybe, hopefully, the video will be clear this time, and I'll give them an even better plug next time. But hey, by the way, if you're looking for someone to sponsor, if you're one of these companies that got big corporate bailout money and you're looking at throwing it at advertising, look, I'll talk all about how great American Airlines is. I'll talk all day about how great these casinos are. I would love to sell them. So hit us up. We'll plug you.
Selling out like a champ. Appreciate it.
But the fact at hand, wrestling got us here and chatting about it on AfterBuzz TV. So I always like to start the show off. I mean, it's called Wrestling with Your Question. Let's talk some wrestling. Flobo, I am absolutely excited. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm about a 47 in regards to this Money in the Bank climbing the corporate ladder match that's coming up. I can't even lead into it with enough pizzazz because it's going to be all my dreams all wrapped into one. How are you feeling about this Money in the Bank climb the corporate ladder match that's coming, but live via the WWE Network?
I am torn because I assume it's going to be one of those cinematic matches. There's no way you can shoot it live and have cameramen running.
Don't say it like that. It's going to be one of those cinematic matches. Nah, it's going to be fun.
I mean that in the most positive way. However, climbing the corporate ladder at Money in the Bank right now seems kind of tone deaf. It just seems you want your job to go to the next level and not be cut soon. Like climb up these stairs. So I'll watch it. I'm on board. I'll watch anything, even the fact that I'm not doing after that I am. But it just kind of feel weird to be rooting for people to. Are they going to be like glass ceilings? Are they going to be like HR representative on every floor to turn you back downstairs? Like, what kind of match are we going to have?
Representative. That would be fantastic. Like Dolph Ziggler gets in there and he's like climbing up the ladder and they're like, "Hey, we saw what you were doing with Otis and Mandy. That is not appropriate. So you're not gonna win today." He's like, "Oh crap!" You've got like the Fiend climbing up there and like, "You didn't turn in your expense reports.
I'm here to show the world."
I think it's going to be fun. I think they're very smart in doing it that way. I mean, obviously you have to, but I think it's like, watching go through this corporate building. What's really fun is just knowing that they're moving offices eventually tells me that I think they're going to destroy this place. I think they're going to really tear into it because the plan isn't for them to stay there. So I think that'll be really fun. Haywood Wong, who I don't know if I'm a fan of these days. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Haywood.
Haywood, what?
Heelwood Wong says Corporate Kane's got to be there. And actually, Haywood would be Hollywood Wong. It's Hollywood Wong.
Heelwood, Hollywood, oh my gosh.
Corporate Kane's got to be there. I'd actually love that too if we saw like people showing up who aren't in the match, just like Corporate Kane hanging out and like choke slam someone and then just disappears back into an office, or different people like that. I think that'd be fun. They could have a lot of fun with it. It could be really silly. Early prediction. Who do you think's gonna win it, Flobo? You didn't say on Raw. You ducked that one.
Oh, absolutely. If you guys ever watch Raw and NXT, I make a point not to have any opinion whatsoever. I just ask the questions, and I let people else say.
For Raw.
Because there's more people.
It's good for an opinion show. It's good.
It's good not to say your opinion is an opinion show. No, because there's a lot of things I do like, or a lot of things that fall neutral for me. So I always feel like I can't jump in like, well, I feel not strong either way. Back to you. So I just don't say anything. Are you asking who's going to win or who should win? I really think the Money in the Bank should be the modern day King of the Ring. and you give somebody who is in the mid, that's solidly a mid card, the shot to have that Money in the Bank briefcase. What we've seen recently is a person right outside the main event, which is kind of a cheap reason. Me in Flobito land, even though I cut his match on Monday, would love Apollo Crews to win the Money in the Bank, because here's a guy that has all the tools. Will he? If he did, I'd be completely surprised. But I think Rey Mysterio has the best story because he's been hanging around the mid card and the main event scene. He always has that back pocket redemption familia story to use whenever he wants. So that'd be the guy, I think.
Yeah, I think that was my prediction. I think Rey Mysterio is going to win as well. I think he's a good first opponent or I guess Drew's going to go through Seth Rollins. I think the follow-up, a Rey Mysterio, is a good follow-up. As I said on the Raw show, I think it just makes sense. I would love someone to be totally new that we haven't seen before, but I don't know. Sometimes when that happens too, you're a little bit like, oh, it's going to be them. And sometimes it takes, like, I'll be honest, if it was Apollo Crews, I love Apollo Crews. You and I, we text at him probably every 9 months whenever he's on Raw. And we both are fans of him. But I also feel like, oh, he's going to face Drew McIntyre. It wouldn't feel as interesting. It's interesting. It feels like this is Raw's match to win, though. For some reason, I'm just not feeling a SmackDown win at Money in the Bank.
No, I think I almost feel like SmackDown looks more polished, but they move a little less running gun than Raw and NXT, especially these days. So I do agree with you. I think it's a Raw title to win. But Nancy says in the chat, wouldn't it happen if Ray won and gave it to Dominic later in the storyline? Now that's the kind of thing you will only see in a WWE video game, and I'm here for it. I want more of that. Yeah. That'd be kind of fun. But to your point, Jack, yes, I think it's a Raw's match to win.
Wouldn't it be great if he gave it to Dominic and then Dominic cashed in and Drew McIntyre just crushed him? Like, just beat the tar out of him.
My son's head was in the second row.
It's even like after a match, like Drew McIntyre's all beat up, and then Dominic cashes in and Drew's just like, whatever, Kit, Claymore. But I mean, it felt like something happened with Dominic. It felt like they were gearing up towards him having a spot on the show, and then it just stopped. Obviously, with the coronavirus, that's probably one of the reasons. But it seemed like even before this, he was faded out. So it's interesting. I wonder if there was. Yeah. That's what I wish you could go back and go like, what was the plan? Was there something there, and it just didn't work? What was? You know what I mean? I feel there's a lot of things like Rowan Spider clearly didn't work, but I wonder what the plan was. Like, what they think was going to happen.
Yeah, 2019, even began 2020, before the pandemic, had a lot of storylines on Raw, which now I can say this honestly because I'm not an AfterBuzz, that would just sucked. They wrote themselves into corners. Things that were like one of the most distasteful things I saw was with the Kofi Mania, right? And how he lost the title. So you imagine it's SmackDown, Fox, people haven't seen wrestling in 15 years, sit down and watch the guy who's the WWE champion get flattened in 8 seconds, which is bad enough, but then has to roll out of the ring to set up a match with Cain Velasquez, who's another MMA guy, for a match that happened one time in Saudi Arabia and disappeared. And then Kofi has to be like, power positivity. I love this tag team division. So yeah, the Spider Dominic, the match was great with Dominic's case, but it got ignored. And I don't know. I don't know if it's kind of a thing where it's personnel or people get skittish and don't want long-term storytelling anymore. Because AEW's, at least still recently, has been really good with their long-term storytelling. But there's sometimes it's kind of like, you guys don't make. I'm always gonna be a wrestling fan. I'm always gonna be a WWE fan. But you guys are making it hard to defend sometimes. You know.
Yeah, and it's. I think because things are so. I always think things are so simple. Like the Kofi Brock thing, and I know this is talked about a lot, but you brought it up, and I think it's something I think we're gonna talk about for years to come. What happened with that? To me, just from basic like TV production, you're trying to fill time. You know, you're trying to fill a lot of time every week. Why not just make that a long match? Like if that was a long match, it would have been fine. it would have been great.
Yeah.
Like it would have been a bummer that Kofi lost on a weekly show, but it was also the first, SmackDown on Fox. So it was more than just a weekly show. But that to me didn't make sense. Like, why not give him 30 minutes? That fills up 30 minutes of your time. Why? And all this stuff to do. It was a 30-minute match. Done. 25% of your show's figured out. That's what I would do.
I agree.
I think that's why AEW is a little bit more of a pass, because they don't lean so much on bing, bang, boom stuff happening. They'll have a long match. Like Kenny Omega this week had a fairly decent match against Alan Angelis. They kept on Alan Eagles, which wasn't right. Now I can't remember how to say his last name, but who was just a local talent guy. We'll talk about that in a minute, but they gave him time. It was fine. I don't know. I never got the squash of Kofi.
Never got it. Yeah. But that wasn't your question. You're talking about Dominic, but yeah, I made a Kofi thing. But
yeah. Well, I mean, this might surprise you, but I actually think Kofi's a bigger star than Dominic.
It's close. But.
It might catch you off guard. But I did mention this Alan Angelis guy, and AEW's been using a lot of local talent lately, and Raw and SmackDown and WWE have used it for years, but especially during this era that we're in, there's been a lot of local talent being used, and some of them have been used really well. I thought AEW has been doing a really, really good job with their local talent that's come in, and they actually signed one already, Anna Jay, for how good she did.
Right.
Who are some of how do you feel they're using their local talent, quote unquote, for wrestling all across the board? And who's standing out? Is anyone standing out to you as like a potential star?
Justin Law.
Justin.
Justin
Law. He's doing his best.
That's literally the one person I'm like, what? There's a lot of people that stand out. It's one of those things where it's not the 2000s anymore, where you can show up out of shape and just be strong or what have you. There's a lot of bodies that I like. A lot of them are blending together. The problem I had with Tahuti Miles, who isn't local necessarily, he's signed by NXT, who has a good look and good speed. Not sure if Tahuti is something I want to chant in a match, but that just tells you that everyone looks pretty good. Anna Jay came at a perfect time for AEW women's division. They were already in a rebuilding process, but some women on the roster haven't shown on set for whatever reason during the pandemic. So she came at the right time, and another hand for that division, another foil for Britt Baker or Nyla Rose or Riho. So I think she'll be the one as well. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. We had a little bit of audio issues there. Going back to Anna Jay, man, she was someone who she came on. I was immediately impressed. I texted you. I was like, hey, they got a new person on AEW. She's great. They signed her right away. They brought her back for a second match that was on Dark this week. And I don't know how much you're up to date on Dark or if you watch it, or I don't know how much you saw the Anna Jay, but it's crazy how well she's doing. And I found out that this match on Dark, meaning her second AEW match, was only her 7th match ever. Wow. And so I am actually flabbergasted with how good she's doing. It's hard to not say she's going to skyrocket. This is match 7, and she's already earning her spot on AEW. I mean, it's got to be it's got to be looking good for her. Do you think that there's going to be long-term pushes coming out of this? Like certain people, we see on Raw, you and I, we both do a Raw show, so it's easy to go to Raw for examples, but like, you see guys like Austin Theory, who probably is the biggest, I don't want to say local talent because he was signed to NXT, but he was hardly even in NXT before he got this big shot up. Do you think people, just from circumstance, are going to become stars that last longer than this? Or do you think some of the highlights of these people is just a short-term thing until we get back to regularity or normalcy, or however you want to say it?
That is hard to say because we don't know what the fans' reaction is. We know Austin Theory is talented, but we don't know if he's like talented, but the crowd's not into him, right? Because we're a bunch of guys in our 30s talking about wrestling every week. We're not a family of 4 buying the souvenir cups. Okay, I'm in my 30s. and Youthful Jack is going to be in 24 next year. So it's hard to tell. But and I heard this in passing on the Corey Graves show. Triple H was just talking about who's on tapings. He was like, "Hey, those who didn't want to come, there was no problem, no heat, just don't come." But anytime there's an environment when there is a challenge and people who don't show up, even though there is no heat, there is an opening for someone to take that spot. So I'm not. If Roman Reigns comes back tomorrow, he has a spot. He's fine. But like let's say if a Bobby Roode is like, I want to take the break to not come to work, and then you come back to work and Tahuti Miles has 2 matches and 2 tapings that day, then I mean there might be a situation of he was here when we needed the bodies. So it's hard to say. In a lot of ways, wrestling is a business that way. But the problem is because we love the product or service of wrestling, as fans, we get all defensive and talk about this guy's disrespected and this guy is totally pushed aside. But you're a livestock, essentially, when it comes down to it. It's sad to say, but yeah. So this could be a lot of opportunities for a lot of younger talents. Almost like Wrestling 95, almost like WWF 1995 when there was no one on the roster.
It's funny because you and I, we work in the entertainment business, live entertainment particularly. And we we see firsthand what happens when you're asked to do an event and what happens when you say yes a lot versus no a lot for any reason. And it is interesting. You can't help it. But when someone says yes all the time, you reach out to them more. And when someone says no a lot, even if they're talented, you stop reaching out quite as often. And it's never even anything personal. But I think there is going to be something said. Again, even if it's like, hey, it's not personal, you just sort of get into this habit, like, well, this person says yes every time. This person does their job every time. The other person, sometimes it doesn't work out. And so I think if you're a top star, I don't think it really matters. I think Roman Reigns will be back. I think he'll be fine. I think he's going to be used just as well because he's a huge star. But I think any of those people who were like on the cusp or maybe not quite all the way there, I think might have some issues going forward. Not intentional, but just, again, if you're the writer or if you're the booker or if you're whoever, you do have those second thoughts. Demo here with Austin Theory could be huge in WWE as long as he is booked strong and has a character that can connect with the fans. I think, and we said this on Raw 2 weeks ago, I think he could be the next John Cena. I think he's huge. I think he could be so big. He's not as big as a John Cena, and I think that worries a lot of people, but I think the WWE is getting smaller in general. Roman Reigns is considered a big guy, but I think if you look back in like the Attitude Era, he wouldn't have been considered as big physically. But I think the guys are getting smaller because the high athleticism is getting more and more important. So I think it could be huge. My question for you, Flobo, if you're in the back, if you're watching these shows, how do you rate wrestlers? How do you know if someone's going to be doing good or bad if there's no crowd to react to?
The answer is that you don't, because I can answer this from a comedian standpoint, because a lot of comedy has moved over to virtual mics, and it's been difficult for me because the idea is that, at least my writing process is that I write, I practice into the mirror, and then I go to an open mic. And if it's good enough for all of that, then I perform in front of a crowd, listen to feedback. So in theory, you can sit and say, hey, look, this is the perfect this is the perfect storytelling, this is perfect psychology. But if you go out there and the fans are sitting on their hands, something's not working. So wrestling will always be a performance sport. It'll always be a live sport. And that's why it's missing. That Rey Mysterio match on Monday with Murphy, I legitimately went to a YouTube and played crowd noises because I was tuning out of the match because it was so good, but there was no oohs and ahs. So yeah, it's hard to tell who's over, who goes over, who is over without a crowd.
Well, one way to get a crowd or get someone over without a crowd is tournaments, right? And we're seeing a couple going on right now. Let's start with AEW. Let's start talking about the TNT title tournament going on. First of all, let's just talk about mid-card titles in general. Are you a fan of them? Do you think they water things down? What are your thoughts on adding titles to a wrestling program?
First of all, I want to say that was a smooth as hell transition. I am a huge fan.
You win some, you lose some.
Yeah, it was. It was nice. I'm not being facetious. I'm a huge fan of mid-card titles. Huge. And that's because even though you have the world champion, that's understood, that's the best, there's always a kind of puzzle filling in we want to do to find out what this division means and how is it better. When I was a kid, I was all about the European title division. It was below the IC, had a bit of the odd characters that were good in the ring, but you didn't know what to make of them. Now the North American title looks great, even though it's not a mid-card title. As far as on its brand, the UK title as a division is amazing to me to watch the kind of people that are vying for that title. And I hated it back in the early 2000s where they decided to combine everything. And you had like the European title merged with the IC, merged with the world title, which was dumb. As far as the TNT Dynamite tournament, AEW needs one. I guess they're calling it TNT because of the network and or Dynamite, but the name is kind of cheesy. And I am afraid that it's not going to be a title when it's all said and done. I'm going back to 2005 where John Cena and Batista were both drafted to Raw, and Teddy Long was going to have a month-long SmackDown Championship tournament. And at the end of that tournament, Teddy Long was like, sorry, player, no title, because we got Batista. And he showed up with the world title. And you're like, then what the hell was the point of the SmackDown Championship? So that's what I worry about with this title.
I don't think they'll do that. I think AEW's. I think so far they've proven to be smarter than that. I don't think they'll do that, though it would be terrible. It does kind of feel like maybe this is a title that they can play around with while things are a bit on hold. And they can have it change hands and people fight for it, and it can go back and forth a lot and give them a title to sort of put on the line without having to burn through challengers for Moxley at the same time. It also fills the gap of the tag team titles, which is really tricky given the situation that we're in, because tag teams, that's 4 people plus the rep, that's 5 right there. So that's half of the people you're allowed to have in one match. So I think they need to fill that gap. But also, I think you need something for the guys who aren't quite world title contenders yet to go for anyways, just because there are certain people who are clearly ready for something. Darby Allin needs something right now beyond just coming out and having little rivalries and feuds. He needs something, but it's too early to give him the world title. You need to sort of test him with the title and see how it looks and see how it feels. Same like Sammy Guevara. I mean, otherwise, what's the point of all these people? Because there really should only be a handful of people that are actually in the world title picture, right? If everyone's in the world title picture, then the world title is corny. There should only be maybe like 5 or 6 people tops. But I agree. I like your talk about the European title. I was a WCW guy, so TV title was my title. Well, the one I liked, that was the equivalent. It wasn't my title. I wasn't necessarily a TV title guy, but what I liked about it, like you said, I feel like anyone could have gotten it. Like every time there was a match, like, well, this could happen. It was almost like the fact that they didn't treat it as important made it more fun, because they're defending on SmackDown. It could change hands. It wasn't like the world title where you're like, he's not going to lose the title on Raw. Like that's what made it fun, I thought. And whoever they were defending against, using the European title, if Al Snow had a shot at it, he could win it. He could,
Al Snow, and he did. Everyone came out from a different country in Europe.
Yeah. So, I think. What do you guys?
No, we have a little bit of a debate here in the chat about Nancy M. She was like, mid-card titles are usually respected for last year's. Can't remember the last time the IC titles are really valued. Maybe when Cody was IC champ. And Dima also says that The Miz was the best to carry the IC title and made it feel important.
I think good points all around. I feel like the IC title is like the Miz title at this point. Like if I didn't know who the IC champion was, I would guess the Miz, because it seems like he has always been the IC champion. I know Jericho seemed to, right? Like I mean, I know Jericho has the most wins for it, but it's just like he's held it for so long and he's won it so often. It just feels like the Miz title at this point. Also, I think he's this generation's quintessential IC champion. You know, back in the 90s, you would have said it was like Kurt Hennig or Bret Hart or one of those guys. But now it feels like, yeah, Miz is that guy. The question is, how do you make these mid-card titles seem important besides just long title reigns? Because everyone's first answer is always like, well, they need to have a long title reign. The problem is, at the same time when you say that, people say you bury the whole roster. So how do you make these titles seem important without just long title reigns?
Yeah, I feel like there should be if I was a mystery booker, because there's a bunch of ways you can do it. You can have that person have their own talking segment, because The Miz had his own talking segment, and so did Jericho. So he's able to put his accomplishments over. The last time I could think of was John Cena with his open challenges, where he actually had different people every week doing that. So I think that kind of like is a mixture of both. You have your monthly defenses on pay-per-view or whatever, and you have open challenges. And maybe open challenges aren't for the title, and maybe they are, but defending the title on TV keeps it top of mind, because since the title is already assumed not to be as valuable as a world title, I think it has to be defended more times for us to care about it, right?
Yeah.
That's my...
Yeah. I mean, the old IC title was known as the workhorse title. It was all those guys doing great matches all the time. So yeah, I think the regularity, but does that get to a point where it becomes, you know, someone like Seth Rollins facing different guys who we know he's going to beat over and over and over and over and over again? Doesn't that become stale too?
It does if it's
segment, but
yeah, if it does like the Viking Raiders thing, or there's a bunch of like East Hampton Polo Boys, and then the occasional Ryder and Hawkins, you're like, well, I can see this.
Don't you dare make fun of the East Polo Hampton.
I apologize. I'm so sorry. Those guys should have got a decent run. But like, let's say it's Monday Night Raw, and you tell me, you know, next like on the NXT cycle, right? There's a mid-card qualifying match, and Marinal gets on the microphone and, oh my God, Apollo Crews, in 2 weeks you have a title match against Seth Rollins. You've basically given the same match, Apollo Crews versus Seth Rollins, but now he's won a match to play into that, and you gave him a hype package. It seems more, it's an inflated stake, but it seems a lot more valuable than, by the way.
Hype packages are underrated. I think they should do more of them, not just right now when they need more time to fill, but in general. I think a hype package can make someone come off so cool and so much better. Something they did on AEW, they had Taz's techniques, where they went through Kenny Omega's signature moves, and he explained why they're so devastating when Kenny Omega does them. And I thought that was such a cool way to make his moves seem cool and seem better. And I was just thinking, if you were to do stuff like that with the guys who aren't as big, you could make them seem cool. Like if Apollo Crews had a legit, you know, wrestler break down the moves of Apollo Crews and why they're so devastating and why he's so good at these particular moves. One, it makes Apollo Crews seem cool. Two, you start looking forward to those moves instead of like, wait, what does he do again? And three, when he does those moves, you're like, oh, he hit that move. I would love to see them do that with those guys who you don't quite see as often, but still have their signature moves.
That's true. It seems like that's a very almost like dying art form. I feel like it's a very conscious flavor that WWE is avoiding. Because I can only think of Nigel McGuinness and Matt Stryker doing that, and Stryker hasn't worked for the E in like 10 years. Everyone else was kind of like, what a move, devastating. But Nigel McGuinness like, look, he's there working his shoulder, like, oh my goodness, like, you know, like that's kind of how he sticks out to me. That's why NXT to me is the strongest commentary team at full strength, because you had Morrow being over the top emotional, you had the cerebral nature in Nigel, then you had Beth that was kind of a go-between.
Yeah, I agree. NXT's announced team is probably my favorite current announced team. Morrow's the best. He's my favorite, absolute favorite. His excitement and energy level is so fun to listen to, and his music references are so great as well, especially because he uses music references that you wouldn't think he would know. He'll drop some some SoundCloud rapper reference, and you'll be like, wait, what? How do you know who that is?
It's so funny because sorry to cut you off, Jack. It's about his references, even pop culture. The last time he was on NXT, remember the whole "We are not your kind," right? And it comes up, "Hey there, cool cats and kittens, Marvin." And it's like such a dissonance between the heavy rock and then Tiger King happening at the same time.
Right. Yeah. I don't like the "We Are Not Your Kind" video or music. They lean really heavy onto the hard rock sometimes at NXT. I think that's because it's a Triple H style. I think Triple H is really into like Motorhead and that kind of stuff, and so I think you kind of see that in the intros. But
we're talking about theme music. We're talking about theme music later on, I think. But I want to say the NXT theme that my favorite was the one in 2017, Rage. Like I still work out to that song. If you guys haven't heard that one, but
dude, wrestling entrance themes are absolute bangers to listen to while you're working out.
Transition. I am so sorry. Oh no, I ruined your transition. Oh snap! I'm so sorry, bro.
I'll never forgive you. It's totally okay.
Oh.
Let's go into the favorite entrance themes. Let's do it. Let's just dive right in. I mean, we had a cruiserweight tournament to talk about too, but I guess.
Oh man, I feel terrible. I feel bad, dude. Okay, let's do it.
On Raw, I'm going to interrupt you right in the middle of something and just segue into whatever match you don't want to talk about now.
It's different when you're the moderator. You're kind of like, that's the way it goes. That's why I always try to be careful when I'm on the other end. But apparently, I wasn't.
No, it's fine. This is a whole show. I mean, come on. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about these favorite themes, though. What are some of your favorite themes?
First of all, I want to shout out to my man Derek Fish, who came up with the question. I wrote this down. I'm actually looking this up because I had to think long and hard about. Because the thing is, some of my favorite themes of wrestling are from like obscure wrestlers that no one really remembers anymore. Those are the ones that get you down, that get you pumped. I have a couple in no particular order because I hate ranking things, even though I'm going to rank things later in this episode. Tino Sabatelli's theme, GOAT. I listen to that every time I look at my bank account and I have less than $40 because that guy is rich. When the money come. Mark Henry, remember he got this song made by 3-6 Mafia after they became Oscar winners. So that was pretty badass at his point. AJ Styles. I like AJ Styles themes for a number of reasons because it had We Don't Want None, not the OC stuff. The AJ Styles theme song is one of the better ones because they had to reestablish who AJ Styles was to a whole generation of people. So you have this song that Slow Down is deep fried in Southern hip hop, right? The lyrics are like, I am breaking his redneck. It has a church organ. So I know off the bat, this guy is Southern. This guy is very deliberate in what he does. This guy is a man of God and he will beat you up. And I didn't have to see one AJ Styles match. I think that's like CFOs were geniuses when it came to that. I like the Drowning Pool version of the game, here comes the game, that one. And Jason Jordan. That's my, when I switched Flobito Reyes' theme song in 2K, I switched it over to Jason Jordan's, The Next Generation of Great. Also, side fact, Jason Jordan's theme song took the same chord progression of the storyline dad, Kurt Angle's, and it sped up. That's why it sounds like it's linked, because they were related on camera. So, one more thing.
Oh.
It's a weird thing, I know. So before I go out for comedy shows, I have a Stage Fright playlist. These are songs I play to get me hyped and in the mood. One of the old SmackDown themes, it's called This Life from Dylan Owens. When they scream my name, I back at every show like, oh. I'm like, yeah. So I imagine a fake crowd outside chanting for me when I'm going on stage. So that's why that's on there. That's a lot.
I love it. Yeah,
that's my favorite themes.
That's a good list. No, it's good. I'm actually glad you had a few because I couldn't narrow it down to one. There's too many. Going with old school. I was an NWO guy, so I love the NWO music. I love it. I love the Voodoo Child for Hogan. I think both of those go together so cool. So I was a huge fan of those. I actually love Goldberg's entrance music, especially during the '90s when he was undefeated and just had this like unstoppable invasion sound that he came with. So those, kind of throwing back are some of my favorites. As far as older ones, as far as newer ones, you're right. CFO killed it. Almost every song they made was great. Like, I don't know why they stopped working with WWE. If I was WWE, I would come back. I'd be like, guys, please, let's just make this work. This music is so good. Because seriously, like, if you go through like NXT's entrances or the people who like got CFO entrance music, almost every one of them is a certified banger.
Top of my head, Pete Dunne, Matt Riddle, Ty Dillinger, NXT Rage.
And
so many ones.
And they're different. Like, it's not like they all have the same theme, like kind of vibe. Like Jim Johnson has some cool stuff, but it's always just like a guitar riff. Like, everyone's like guitar riff, which is cool. Yeah. But like CFO was just amazing. As far as some newer ones, I love in Lucha Underground. I love Pentagon's theme, and I love Mil Muertes' themes. Both really cool. And before he got signed by the E, Shane Strickland or Swerve, Isaiah Scott, Killshot. On the Indies, he had "Ain't Nobody" as his song, which was so cool. That "Ain't Nobody."
Oh, the Shaka Khan, really?
Oh, it was so good. Shaka Khan. It's so cool. Like, you almost gotta like go check out one of his matches just to see him walk out. I'm gonna plug Defy Wrestling because that's my indie love company. But
I bet you would
check them out. He has a match with Cody Rhodes, which is pretty cool. So I'll tie in AEW and Defy. But
you know what? I want to say, I know your cousin's probably watching, and I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure people love him, but I'm still hurt, Matt Farmer. I'm still hurt. Continue.
What do you heard about Flobo? What's wrong with Matt Farmer?
Do you want me
the
to
legendary Matt Farmer?
Do you want me to pull back the curtain, guys? Should I? So allegedly, one of the premier independent wrestling promotions in the Pacific Northwest is called Defy Wrestling. Mm-hmm. And one of the people that's involved is by the name of Matt Farmer, who is actually related to that guy, Jack Farmer. Can you believe it? Small world. Yeah. And they're okay. They're decent. I'm a fan of wrestling of all different brands.
All the greats come through there.
Yeah, I guess, sure. I mean, Jack Evans was there a couple times.
I reach out to your boy MVP just came through there.
I go and say, hey, look, I love the wrestling art and science. This Matt Farmer guy does too. Let me go reach out to him. And the dude left me on red like I was trying to out the dude. He left me on red like I was on Tinder. He left me on red like I was on Plenty of Fish. I was so heartbroken. I unfollowed the guy. Unfollowed him. I can't do it. I can't do it.
I'm sure he's so disappointed.
Yeah, I know. He stays away up awake like, I wonder what happened.
How do I make this right? Well, I think kind of the moral of your story, and I think the main takeaway is that everyone should check out Defy Wrestling. You can get Defy on demand for $9.99 a month, and you can check out all of their stuff. It's really cool. I think that's what you're trying to say. But let's go to the next question.
Wow.
And this one's from Hollywood Wong. I'm going to pitch this to you because I think I answered a similar question last time. Top 5 women amongst all companies right now. Women wrestlers, I guess I should say.
I'm glad that this was asked the way it was, because if you guys are on this channel, I have a show called What's Up, Flobo? That airs every episode on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And in yesterday's episode, I specifically had a show about ranking things. I hate ranking things. I hate having lists. I hate ranking things. My top 10 wrestlers of all time and my top favorite wrestlers of all time were lists I made under duress because Matt was like, because Jack Farmer was like, you have to have a list. So I have that. So I'm going to give you 5 women. You guys can put whatever you want. Just know that Bailey's number 1. But everybody you can put whatever you want. So the top 5
Yeah.
women combined of WWE and AEW for this guy. I always talk about Bayley. Haywood hates Bayley. Jack hates Bayley. But people will know she's the most
I don't hate
decorated
Bayley.
superstar on the Rose. You always say she's trash in our chats.
I can't remember she's on the roster, so I don't know. I always forget she's there.
You know,
you can't hate someone.
she's the SmackDown Women's Champion, TK. Dang it. So I want to say that she's the most decorated person on the roster. And she is not only safe at what she does, she can work, high-flying powerhouse. She is the total package. And I think people won't understand that now, but they will later on, that Bayley is a treasure and so valuable to that brand. Other ones on my list that have no ranking whatsoever: Charlotte Flair, the daughter of Ric Flair, or to say Ric Flair is the dad of Charlotte Flair these days because she is that good at what she does. Cuts a promo on Monday and Wednesday, and if you watch both of them, they have different vibes. They're a very, very good character work there. I like Io Shirai. Came back from injury, even back when she was a generic even back when she was a generic face in the Mae Young Classic. I went back after she turned heel and I saw her matches. I go, oh, they're really great. Okay, maybe her character wasn't there yet, but her moves are sick, and now the character's actually met up with that. And on the AEW side, Shauna's done a lot for that division when they needed her the most. To be a backstop also, even though she doesn't have the best win-loss record, you need someone like that with good fundamentals, the Natalia of your brand, if you will. And my boo thing on Wednesday Night Dynamite, Hikaru Shida, man. Fantastic to watch. Man. Fantastic to watch. Very good marketable look. And I think she's like what, 8 of her last 9 or 9 of her last 10 or something like that. So those are my 5.
Yeah, what about your girl though? Jessie Kamea? Is that it? Am I saying it right?
So Jessie Kamea is a crush of mine. I would stand on line for an autograph
of the week.
If you guys didn't watch NXT yesterday, she appeared and I lost my shit. I tweeted like, oh my god, Jessica Kamea beat Mia Yim. And she hung in with Mia Yim, which is a lot more about Mia Yim than Jessica. But I'm just saying, I can't put her on the top 5 list as of yet. And because of my bad experience as a kid waiting online for wrestlers and autographs, I don't usually do that. But I would stay online for an autograph for Jessica Kamea because she is that amazing.
That is so sweet and cute, and we're going to move on from it. I have a few things I want to ask about. First off, you had mentioned Jessie hung in there with Mia Yim. How do you feel about, do you think the length of a match matters or the offense back and forth matters between wrestlers? And this is coming from some people were mad, as I mentioned earlier, that Kenny Omega had a match with Alan Angles, and he hung in there. He got some moves in. He kicked out of a V-trigger even. And a lot of people were frustrated because Alan is a guy who's had 2 matches on AEW, is really only there because of what's going on. And here he is hanging in there with Kenny Omega. Do you say to yourself, man, Kenny Omega must be a schmuck because it took more than one V-trigger to put away Alan? Or is it like, it's entertainment. They're just creating entertainment. It doesn't really matter.
Individually, it does not. Like in the match, if it takes another one, then it doesn't matter. But then if you take a step back for the storyline build, then it does. So to use your example of Mia Yim and Jessie Kamea, because Charlotte handpicked Mia Yim, someone who's basically lost more matches than she won, her match against somebody who hasn't been on TV should have been an absolute steamroll. And it wasn't. And it was 3 minutes and she won, but the moves were not as crisp. It almost looked like it could have been anyone's match to win, which is not the look you want to have if you're going to face Charlotte Flair next week. But if it's just you and me going to the local Coliseum, paying a tenner to watch some matches, and no, it doesn't matter.
What if it's on AEW Dynamite?
It's the same thing. Because their pay-per-view schedule is infrequent, I don't think it matters 2-3 months ago. If they had a 3-week pay-per-view cycle where things work like that, then you'll say, man, he looks pretty weak right now. But truthfully, if your next pay-per-view is in, say, August or July, Kenny Omega can have 101 matches between now and then, and we forgot about it.
Technically, it's next month. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. May 23rd is the day they have set for it. I don't know what their plans are for it. But technically speaking, May 23rd is their next. They haven't made any announcements on changing it yet. I don't think it matters. I always think, for me, I think in this day and age, people are looking too far into it. I think there are certain people that should, like Braun Strowman shouldn't have a competitive match with a local guy because that's not who he is. But if you're like a technician, I think it's fine if it goes for a little bit. I think if Dolph Ziggler is wrestling a local talent and it goes for 5 or 6 minutes, I think it's fine. If The Miz is doing it, if Seth Rollins is doing it, I think looking at the kind of person a Drew McIntyre is, that's different. Drew McIntyre is the kind of guy he's gonna count down from 3 and kick you in the face. Or like the Goldberg shouldn't have long matches. So I guess it's different, but I don't know. I think it's one of those things where people make too much about something that isn't really necessary. So I think if you have a local guy on there, the whole point is you're kind of just filling time. Like, I don't think you get the local guy because you want that. You know what I mean?
Right. I think also too, against the post Shawn Michaelization of independent wrestling, there are times where people no sell a lot. I don't know if you guys saw that Willie Mack match at the last Impact event. I mean, like Willie Mack's. If you guys don't know who Willie Mack is, you should. He was the Mack on New Lucha Underground, but one of his setup moves is the stunner.
So good.
And his opponent didn't even take it. Like, he rolled through it. He took the stunner and rolled through it and like hit him with a rotating clothesline. He was like, aren't you not going to be? I mean, so I think there's like a kind of a flip side to it, but just say you're right. I think 95% of the time you're absolutely right. It's just entertainment, you know?
Yeah. I wasn't a fan of him no selling the stunner, but what are you going to do? I guess, what are you going to do? What are you going to do is a question that a lot of people are asking football GMs today as the NFL draft kicks off. A virtual draft this time around. Haywood asks who we think the first 5 draft picks are. I don't know if you're an NFL guy. I know you were more an XFL guy, but do you follow the draft? Are you a draft guy?
Being an XFL guy has gone from being, that's cool, to what the hell are you on in like 7 days, right? I'm not big into college, but a good friend of both of us, I guess now, Johnny Bowles, is from New Orleans and is a huge LSU fan. So that I think that quarterback was like number 1 projected. So I've been trying to follow like that team,
going to the Bengals.
Yeah. So really? Okay. But yeah, I'm not into college.
They're the first pick, and they probably are going to pick him.
Fair.
Unless they mess it up. But
did you have a mock draft ready to go? You have a bracket?
No, it's funny. I used to love the draft. I used to be so into it. It used to be one of my favorite things. And I used to be that guy that would watch it live. And I would make like my big board, and I'd have it there, and I'd like cross names off and be like, oh, who's available? Blah, blah. Then a couple things happened. One, my team got good. And when your team's good, you don't need the draft quite as much. It doesn't mean as much to you.
Seahawks, right?
I'm a Seahawks fan. I love the Seahawks. And since they started winning, when your team's not doing good is when it's interesting. Like, if you're a Bengals fan, it's interesting. But they're number 1 in the draft for a reason, because they're not very good. When your team is good, the draft is typically just guys who are going to be on the bench most of the season. You're not getting a lot of stars, and it's mostly just depth at that point. But also the thing because that didn't really put me off on it. I was still kind of into it. But the thing that really put me off on it is the Seahawks notoriously always trade out of the first round. They almost never make an actual pick day 1. And because of that, they kind of like to trade back to like the 2nd and 3rd and the 4th rounds, where you're getting guys that, I mean, even if you're following it, unless you're really into it, unless you're like really, really into it, you don't really know much about, other than just like a quick blurb you read beforehand,
Right.
So it doesn't, it kind of lost its fun for me. Like, when your team isn't picking, it's just not as fun. And so I kind of got into it. So I'll be honest, I don't really know the top 5 teams or who's gonna go. I do know that the LSU quarterback Joe Burrow is probably to the Bengals, unless they bungle it and decide to like do something different. But they need a quarterback.
And I guess the counterpoint to that also is that as a Houston Texans fan, most of our news is made by some really questionable trades over the offseason. So I'm also not interested in the draft, but for a different reason.
Yeah. Yeah, something that was really kind of hurt football for me too. I mean, I still enjoy it, but something that kind of hurt it for me is you realize at some point that your football team and whether or not you have a good football team, the only three things matter. I guess four: the owner, the GM, the coach, and the quarterback. That's really it. I mean, Granted, you need a whole team, but like if you don't have those four things, it's not going to work out. Like right now, the Texans haven't been making good moves because their GM isn't doing a good job. And as long as that's the case, it doesn't matter if you get the best receiver in the world. It doesn't matter if you get the best, it doesn't matter if you have JJ Watt because the team's it's just not going to work. There's going to be too many holes in it. You can, or if you're one of those teams that have a great team but no quarterback, I mean, it's just not going to work out. I mean, everyone's like, well, Trent Dilfer wasn't that great. That's like one guy from 20 years ago, like that won a Super Bowl that wasn't very great as a quarterback. It's something that like it doesn't ruin football for me, but there is this part of me that's like, the Seahawks are really only good because they've got a good GM, coach, quarterback, and owner. When Paul Allen passed away, I was really bummed out because Paul Allen was a great owner. So far, the new ownership's been doing good, but I was worried. I was like, oh great, we're gonna get like a Jerry Jones who's gonna ruin it. But yeah. But really, if you have those four things, the rest of it doesn't matter. When you realize that, you kind of go, oh, okay, well,
dang.
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of hurt the draft for me.
And a fan base because the LA Chargers. Whew, all right.
Yeah,
I just want to dig at them. Hey, they got a good uniform set this year, but 12,000 fans at a game. The LA Wildcats are drawing the same amount of people. So let's be real.
She's gonna learn really quickly though. Like they got rid of old Phillip Rivers, and I think they're gonna realize just how hard it is to replace a good quarterback. Like sometimes I think you get tired. People get tired of quarterbacks sometimes, and I think they forget just how hard it is to find a good one. I mean, Cleveland Browns will tell you how hard it is to find a good one, and there's a lot of teams that are in purgatory for a long time before they get that next quarterback. Just because even this guy from LSU, he might not be the real deal. I was having fun like a month ago. I wish I could remember these things more clearly off the top of my head right now. But I wanted to go back and look at like all the hype different quarterbacks have gotten over the years, and like Mark and how I was excited about him and how he's a backup, or Jameis Winston and how he's like probably not going to have a job. And now, you look at like RG3 and you look at like all these people who were touted as being so like, they're going to change the game. They're going to do all this stuff. And then it's like, it didn't work out. You never
Johnny
really
Manziel,
know.
Mark Sanchez. Yeah. Yeah,
dude. Mark Sanchez. I remember he was quarterback when I first moved down to LA. He was quarterback at USC. And that was before the Seahawks had Russell Wilson, and I was like, it'd be so cool if the Seahawks got Mark Sanchez. He'd be so good. And then so many quarterbacks I wanted so bad, and now the fact, like, oh my God, I'm so glad we did not have that person as our quarterback. I would rather have a terrible quarterback than a moderate quarterback, because at least a terrible quarterback will get you a first pick.
Right. You tried.
The moderate quarterbacks, I was saying, my buddy's a big Chicago Bears fan, Andy Rossi. You know Andy Rossi, and I was saying that's the bummer about like a Mitch Trubisky is he. No, they got a new quarterback. Who did they get? They picked someone up, but it was another like middle of the road kind of quarterback, which is always funny to say middle of the road. You're like the 15th best on the planet at being a quarterback. And we're like, they're middle of the road. They're whatever. Only 14 people on earth are better than me at it. But they're whatever. I mean, imagine saying about anything else. So if you were the 15th best host on the planet, you would be famous. You'd be rich. as it stands, you're only the 16th best, so that's why you're not there yet. But if you were
Maybe.
better than
Well, according to the Haywood Wong scale, I'm not even the top of his favorite host there, so I'm pretty much a nobody.
yeah, Haywood. Well, you know what? Let's get into it. Haywood. I said I jokingly throw it out there. Let me see you rank your host. I just wanted to put him in an awkward spot. And he goes and he names people who aren't even part of the wrestling shows.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then he names the wrestling show hosts. They're people who aren't even part of AfterBuzz anymore. I'm so
can I say this? The final backhanded slap was like, Jack, you should really increase your stock by doing other shows. I was like, wow, what a jerk. I'm just kidding, Haywood. We love you.
No, it was yeah, it was a very funny, like, who's your favorite host? And your name's non-wrestling, and then it was like, oh, you mean wrestling? Oh, well, Evan and Hobo. It's like, okay.
They're not there. I really love Kathy Kelly.
We're just teasing.
Yeah, I was totally teasing.
We're just teasing. We're
totally
teasing Haywood. I learned my lesson. I'm never going to ask again about favorite hosts.
I literally said my ego can't take this. I am not going to ask. What was your favorite host?
I think that's why I said. I think you said you didn't want to, or your ego wasn't bad. I was like, I was going to ask. I was going to do it. Whatever. Exactly. But Haywood had another question for us that I don't know if I should answer. But no, I'm joking.
Hey, if you guys talk about Matt Farmer, you have to talk about Haywood Wong.
So Jameis Winston is no longer, or maybe he is with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't know what's going on with him, but Tom Brady is now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback. He trademarked TBXTB, which to me makes it feel like he chose Tampa Bay purely for branding purposes. But he also got Gronk with him, and Haywood wants to know if this is going to be the next greatest show on turf as an exciting, explosive offense. I don't know. It's tough. I think Tom Brady's the best of all time. I think he is amazing. I don't count him out. It's so interesting, though, to see him without Bill Belichick, and it's so interesting. I don't know if Gronk is really going to be that big of an add-on. I think after missing time and getting older and things like that, I don't know if it's going to. I don't know if it's really gonna. I don't know how it's gonna go. I hope he does well because he's a legend. I'd hate for this to be like Jordan to the Wizards. What about you?
The short answer, no. I think that the raw skill of Gronk and Brady and the team around him and the fervor around him will have a winning record, probably 10-6. But I don't see him being like the dominant. Oh my gosh, shoot waiting for the first round as it was in Boston, because there is a lot of things about Belichick being able to have swapping parts over all these seasons. That's what really makes him the genius. It's not so much of winning and keep winning. It's you don't even have the same players and parts every year. How do you make that work? So they're going to do well. They're going to do pretty good. It might be a good end of their career. I'm sure Tampa Bay Brady merchandise will be a fun footnote, like when Favre was in New York, but it's not going to be the dominant thing.
Yeah, I think the Pats are going to do a lot better. I think Patriots. I think Bill Belichick's best all time. Also, for the same things you said, the way he's been able to just do different things, different people. The fact that he won 11 games with Matt Castle, I think says something. And I think Bill Belichick is going to come out looking like a absolute genius. I think Brady will still do well. I don't know if he'll be a top 5 quarterback anymore, and that's not a shot at him. I think just doing the math in my head, I think you got Wilson, Mahomes, you got Rodgers, you've got probably Watson. I don't know. Lots of good names. Lamar Jackson. Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot Lamar Jackson.
Last year, yeah.
I think it's going to be hard for him to be top 5 at this point. You know who is a top 5? It's Flobo. Flobo Boyce. You're a top 5. You're a top 5 in the senior league of commentators on Rocket League. Bro, you are living the dream. You are doing like This is like all stars aligning in the Flobo dream category, converging into a supernova of success. I'm so happy for you. Walk us through. First off, how did you become a Rocket League commentator?
Wow, I asked, but I became a huge Rocket League player first. I went to a wrestling event at Comic-Con. Xavier Woods ex Xavier Woods. He listens to the podcast. He gets upset if you say Xavier. Ex Xavier Woods and Becky Lynch were at an autograph signing. And again, I broke my rule of going to wait for autographs for wrestlers because my friend wanted to go. And it was a Rocket League 3rd birthday party extravaganza. They gave us discount download codes to get SmackDown and Raw flags on our cars. And I was instantly hooked, and I played it like the year and a half. And whenever I was stressed out or whenever I wanted time to myself, I would play Rocket League. And so I was never good. And I saw this group online for seniors. That's people over the age of 30 who are playing the game. And I said, hey, these people must suck like me.
That's so offensive. Join. I'm so mad.
You're 29. Don't worry about it. Yeah, exactly. But it turns out age is just a number. I just suck regardless. These guys are really, really good. And they were having their first ever invitational tournament. And esports is getting big. And I used to do commentary as a joke over my own matches, like a fake British commentator for Premier League. You know, I go, here comes Flo Gato. He's charging the ball. He's going to have a go. Oh, deny the crossbar. Like, that was my thing. So I said, hey.
Right, what's this, Ben? Going for the ball.
Yeah, well, you guys. The thing is, on Premier League, the British commentators always sound like they're being choked out. He's like, he's having a go, a shot, cracking shot. You know. So I went to the group and I said, hey, you're having a tournament. You have a commentator. And they go, well, no. You want to jump on? I'm like, yeah, sure. I seriously think they thought I was going to be like, okay, he has a ball and go, but. I had the book. I had a New Amsterdam notebook of all the teams, all their ranks, why they mattered. I had talking points. I had sidebars. I plugged the sponsors. Like, I treated it as if it was legitimately esports Rocket League. And when it was done, they were like, bro, you're part of us, bro. If you ever do more of these, we're going to give you a call. And I was like, I was so elated, man. I clipped out. If you guys were any important to me as my friend or family, you got clips that weekend of me commentating over Rocket League, doing like sports analysis. It was great, man. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was so cool to see. I love seeing people I know doing the things they love. And so it was cool seeing like Matt go to the bump, which I think is just perfect for him. It's cool seeing you get to work with Rocket League. I hope that they bring you onto more tournaments and get to do more stuff and bigger stuff. And yeah, with esports, especially in this day and age, man, I think if I was a game company and I have a degree in video game art and design, I would tell you right now, I would push that esports stuff so hard because this could be an opportunity for you to start taking a chunk of other sports viewership, I think, right now. Because especially you got like a year before people are going to be fully on board going back to live events, before everyone's back on board at least. And I think this is your time. Like, hey, you don't need to go to these events. You can watch it. You can play it. You can be a part of it. And gaming, as gamers grow up, is becoming more and more mainstream. Not to age ourselves, but I think you probably remember, like I do, when we were younger, video games were like nerdy. Now it's just common.
Right.
Like, and it was like a kid's thing when we were younger, but now I think all of us grew up, and now we're all playing games. So, dude, I think it's cool. I think it's really awesome that you had the opportunity to do that. And I recommend anyone and everyone who hasn't already, check out Flobo's Patreon. I'll plug it for you. And see some of the stuff that you did there. It was really cool. And the next thing we're going to talk about has to be a downer because that was just too cool. But I'm just going to keep it about you. You talk about Star Trek, buddy. How's that going?
Star Trek is cool, man. Again, I was on the after show this season for Picard, Star Trek Picard, and I'm still new to the Star Trek universe. And so I finished The Next Generation, and I asked, hey, what should I watch next? And they said, DS9, man. That's what I do. So the past couple of days, I've been watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Benjamin Sisko doing his thing, a whole different flavor altogether. A lot of things I still don't quite understand. There's sometimes I'm like, maybe I'm too dumb for Star Trek. But it's been a rocking time, man, being able to get myself really more ingrained into the culture and why people are so defensive of their fandom. For a long time, Star Trek fandom was like the prototypical of like nerd culture. You know what I mean? Now I've seen now with wrestling and comic books and stuff, but I understand there's just so much information there that if you take the time to learn all of that, your mind, you deserve it told a certain way. You deserve these characters presented in a certain way. So it's been fun, especially coming from an outside perspective, being like, hey, does this fly in 2020? Does this make sense? And having people come in and answer my questions on Twitter. It's pretty cool.
It's how much do you have to watch before you're no longer considered an outsider? Because on the AEW AfterBuzz show, we have Jessica who's new to wrestling, but I wonder how long she can watch AEW before we're like, hey, you're not new to wrestling anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point. My thing is, if you can watch one episode from each series, you could get all the flavors or the main series. So like I've watched one episode of the original TNG. I'm on 10 of DS9 and Picard and Discovery. I have not seen Voyager. I have not seen Enterprise yet. If I see one of those, and I can say, okay, I'm a casual, Star Trek fan.
Yeah. Are you in it for life now? Are you a Star Trek fan for life? Or is this like, hey, it's part of the job, it's part of AfterBuzz, it's part of being a host and a pundit and knowing my stuff? Or are you in? Like, if you were done with it on AfterBuzz, would you keep watching?
It's kind of a complex question, but because I started off as a fan first. I love Discovery, and Discovery to me is Star Trek. But then deciding to go back and watch other series at first was work. And I'll be honest with you, I fought with TNG because those shows back then weren't made to be binged. They were like mini movies of 40 minutes. So doing 7 episodes a day of 7 really deep stories about race relations and intergalactic politics, you're like, I can't. But the more I'm watching them now, the more I think I'll watch. Probably more casually. I think I'll say I'm a casual fan of Star Trek, enough to impress people at parties. But like yesterday, I was confused about what the trill was, and I went to Twitter for help. Like, hey, fans, what does this mean? As long as I feel like you don't fake it, I think fans will respect that. The moment I'm walking in being like, oh, I know what it is, and
I find the most rabid and angry fan bases are also the most accepting, so long as you just say, hey, I'm new and I want to learn. I think people want like that. That's how wrestling was. I was kind of worried when Jessica started that a lot of the wrestling fans were going to be crabby about her not being a person who knows the difference between a tope and a tope suicida or whatever. But I just fronting it and being like, hey, I'm new, I'm watching this. People were very welcoming to her and very good about it. Hey, this is some stuff you should check out, or it's good to have you on, or whatever. And it sounds like Star Trek is the same way. You come into it like, what's this? And everyone hates you. But if you're like, hey, I've never watched Star Trek before, where's a good starting place? Then people, I think, are into it and happy to help you out. If you were fantasy booking your own Enterprise starship, who would be your captain? I mean, captain, any potential captain, who's your captain? This is Flobo's picking on.
Well, now I'm leaning towards Cisco after watching 10 episodes of DS9. But someone asked me this question last week on Twitter, and I was like, even though his storyline ended weird, I was all about Lorca because Lorca was the first captain I saw ever. So to me, again, on Discovery, Jeremy Irons, I thought that was what a captain was. So the first half of that first season, I was like, oh man, that'd be cool. Because as a Green Lantern fan, they have yet to come up with a Green Lantern show that talks about the space and quadrants and sectors and planets and being a peacekeeping force between each planet. So Star Trek fills a lot of that. So even though Lorca to me was more of a hard ass, I understood it. Cisco has that John Stewart Green Lantern vibe, which John Stewart Green Lantern is literally my favorite superhero of all time. So I'm now leaning more and more towards Cisco.
Do you think they could do a Green Lantern TV show or movie, or is it just too hard visually? Because the visuals of it are weird. Like, and the ring, just personally, I think it's weird visually to see, not in a comic book.
I think one is development on HBO Max. But like yourself, I am curious to how much the episode budget are, or if they're going to have like ready room episodes where they just talk about things in a room, save on the budget. But yeah, it's hard to come up with something that can create anything with the rings,
Yeah, it's just I imagine them like using the ring and like putting someone in a bubble and like, come with me, and like it looks silly on TV. Like in comics, you take it like, oh, okay, it's fine. It's like certain things in video games and video game like that you're accepting a video game, but in a movie it doesn't work. Like the main characters in video games are always terrible, but we accept it in video games. But because in video games you're supposed to project yourself onto the main character, so the main characters usually have very little character at all, which is why in movies they always have to add stuff to give you a main character.
Sure.
I always say, like, is Link from Legend of Zelda, is he funny or is he serious or is he, we don't know because he doesn't say anything. The main character in Skyrim, one of the biggest games of all time. What's he like? I don't know. It's that's why those games are so difficult to make into movies, and because it doesn't translate. And I wonder how the ring would translate. We're going kind of long, and I always want to keep this at an hour, but you and I are chatty Cathys, and so we keep it going. I think coming up in future shows. I have a few questions. I'm going to ask you about them, and maybe let the chat let us know as well. I can kind of look at the chat now. Again,
I don't want to ask the chat anything because they say your AEW after show is so positive and fun, but there's so much infighting on Raw. I want to say that Raw's a family too. It's just very, very spirit. It's called Hot Talk on Raw, man.
Well, it all starts with the moderator, Flobo.
I know. I'm in slacking. I can't. I just love to fight. My name is Finlay. I love to fight.
Look, we fight because of Jim. Let's be honest. Let's just say it. Jim's the reason we fight. I love Jim. That's why he's great on the shows. But because if you don't fight, you're going to get run over. That's why we fight.
Seriously, Jim TK and TK is like baking soda and vinegar, man. You put them together in the same room.
No, that's why it's fun to have those kind of conversations, though. Like Jim's very good about like you got to have an opinion if you're talking to Jim. You can't let him. You can't just be like, oh, whatever, because he'll call you out on it. And that's what's great about working with Jim. I'm a big Jim fan. But I want to ask, speaking of Jim and TK, I'm going to ask the guests. Something we've been chatting about and texting and going back and forth on is, should we have guests on the show and invite people on? We obviously know a lot of people through AfterBuzz and other things, and we've been able to make a few connections here and there. But I want to ask the chat, should we invite people on? Should we invite maybe some other hosts you've seen on AfterBuzz? Maybe we could get Jim on here, or maybe we could get a TK on here, or maybe we could get a
we can?
or maybe TK. Yeah, I don't know. TK is tricky. I don't know if we'll get TK on. But we have a hard enough time getting her on Raw, let alone. But we have, we have Josh Tariff, for instance, or Gabby. I think the people from SmackDown, I'm interested. Or out too. So something we've done is we had like Stephanie Hypes on, which was really cool. She was a great guest. We had Eva on as well. She was really great. We had Jesse Davin on AEW, was really cool. We could do all sorts of stuff as far as guests go. Maybe reach out.
Yeah, we could totally do that. And Jack's taking a little vacation or break. I really want to see what you guys think about that, I mean, I'm down for guests. I know, especially now in this time where we're all kind of in our little home studios and we're trying to find like some new people to bounce ideas off of, and we're not crammed in the studio. We can pretty much get anybody, like how Jack Farmer got the Simon Miller and Mikey Ruckus this spring. So why not?
And, Scorpio said that earlier in the year or late last year as well. It was pretty cool as well. No big deal. Just the current tag team champion of the world.
I mean, I got Kofi Kingston on an interview one time. I'm just, that's fine.
Yeah, you win that one. Round. So yeah, let us know what you guys think. We're going to we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We went 19 minutes over. That's my fault. That's what happens. You don't have a producer like Josh or Ryan in the booth sending notes to say wrap it up. Anything you want to get off your chest? Anything you want to say before we go?
I just want to say you've got some people in the chat. They want Jim, they want Jess, Roger, and Bryant, Josh Tariff. A lot of the AfterBuzz host fam, which I thought was pretty interesting about them having guests on the show, wrestling with their questions.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, I have another question. Is it time for me to shave? I'm getting over this thing, man. I'll be honest. This beard is not fun anymore. The fun part of it's gone.
You're in too deep, man. It's like my beard. Sometimes I want to shave it, but then when I grew it out is when I got most of my opportunities in life. So I'm stuck with it now. That's just the way it is. That's it.
Yeah, maybe it's here for life. I don't know. I've been putting on some weight, so I don't know if I shave it, I might have an extra chin under here. I don't know if I want to. So that's it from us. Flobo, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, man. So if you guys are streaming right now, this is the YouTube channel. Like, comment, subscribe, please, please, please. And my Patreon, patreon.com/Flobo Boyce. Like Jack alluded to before, I have a super cut of all of my top calls from the Rocket League Senior Series and an exclusive blog going on there too. Patreon.com/Flobo Boyce. Like, comment, subscribe to this YouTube page. And I'm on Twitter @Flobo Boyce. Hit me up with a question, and it may be appearing on a future episode of Wrestling with Your Questions.
I love it. And of course, you can find me at jackcfarmer.com as well as at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. You can also check me out on the AEW Dynamite After Show every Wednesday night. You can check me out on the Raw After Show. Demo, thank you for the beard comment. We'll see how long it goes. I'm not shaving it. I mean, I clean it up so it's not like neck beard, but it's starting to grow down there anyways. But you can also find me on I don't know, social media, Skim, stuff like that. But Wrestling with Your Questions is the show. Let us know what you think. As always, guys, we always complain and ask and beg and cry and plead for likes, comments, and subscribes. But guys, it's important. It's how the show grows. It's how we get known. And hey, if this goes well enough, maybe we'll someday see Flobo on ESPN doing the new Rocket League that they're running over there. And maybe you'll see me sitting at the booth next to Excalibur someday. Maybe, who knows what'll happen. So please like, comment, subscribe, share, 5-star reviews, all that good stuff. And hey, let us know who you want to see on the show. Give them a tag on Twitter. Give me a tag. Let's see who's there. Appreciate all of you guys so much. Haywood Wong, I'm just teasing with you. I'm just joking. I love you to death. I appreciate you so much for being part of the show. Of course, Derek and Demo and Nancy. And I always have such a hard time looking at these things. My connections get so bad for some reason when we do StreamYard. StreamYard, you're sponsors. Make it better.
Yeah.
That's all from us. So until next time, everyone, as always, do your best and be yourself.